Hey guys, Credible Crypto here. It has been a little while since I last made a YouTube update, and so I'm going to go ahead and make this update primarily with a focus on Ethereum, and we'll talk about Ripple a little bit as well, and we'll talk about Bitcoin as well. But there's a interesting development here, which is why I decided to make this video, and I think it's quite important. We'll talk a little bit about the big picture um, for the entire market as a whole, and then we're going to go and focus a little bit more on Ethereum and altcoins in this particular video. Bitcoin is pretty straightforward, it's very clear. So we'll talk about that as well, but we'll talk about the implications that that will have on the altcoin market in this video. So we'll start off with Bitcoin, and I'm just going to start off by asking you guys to recall in one of my, I think it was my last major update video, I talked about a particular scenario in which we trend sideways for a lot longer than most would be happy with before actually continuing up for a parabolic run on Bitcoin. I mentioned that we could be forming a larger triangle formation here for a major wave 4, and that once this triangle completes, we may then see a breakout to the upside. That could push well into 2021 or even further. I talked about this in one of my last videos. If you guys have been keeping up with my YouTube videos, you would have seen it. If not, then feel free to go back and watch it. I talked about altcoins. I'll link it in the description. But essentially, I was proposing something of this nature to occur here on Bitcoin. Which would surprise most because most are expecting a continuation of the upside and new highs very soon. But this, I think, would draw out long enough to make a lot of people get fed up, get tired of the market, essentially bore them out of the market. And this is a very viable scenario in my opinion because we've just come off of the highs of 20K. And right now, people are kind of at their wits' end with Bitcoin. After seeing this rally off of 3K, many are expecting new highs now. And if we are simply to chop along for another 3 months, 6 months, a year, I think it would have the desired effect of shaking out many of the individuals that are currently in the market at this point in time. So, keeping that in mind, guys, let us go ahead and take a look very quickly at the Brave New Coin Index. This is actually the chart from my last video, so ignore this guy here. Go ahead and let me delete that real quick. And this was what I had proposed in the last video, essentially, right? A major wave 4, a 1, 2, 3. This is our major wave 4. And then the final 5th wave to the upside before a multi-year bear market. So this is just a little refresher from my last video. But now that we've seen that, let's go back to Bitcoin and talk about Bitcoin very quickly on the shorter time frames, all right? So the lower time frames here, one thing that is very clear on Bitcoin, let me go ahead and delete all this stuff now that we've seen it. You guys have the idea. So one thing that is very clear on Bitcoin is this 5-wave move to the upside off of the lows of 3K. So I do think that before we clear the lows of 3K, we will clear the highs at 14K. So I think the next major move will be to the upside, all right? That being said, it'll only occur after this correction is complete, and this correction may not yet be complete. My target for this correction for a while now has been 7.2 to 8.8K, and I've been buying spot in this region. We can fall lower than 7.2K. There's absolutely no rule preventing us from doing so. But I do think that if we do fall lower, we may wick down to the 6K region, maybe wick down to around 5,500, and then we'll pop to the upside for a ride back up above 14,000. And the reasoning behind that is that we know that an Elliott wave, after a 5-wave impulsive move, we can never just have a 5-wave move to the upside to complete a correction. So even if this is a corrective wave to the upside, we still need a C wave. So at this point, we've completed the A, we're working on the B, and we still need a C wave at the bare minimum, 3 legs, 3 waves, even if this is a corrective structure, to complete the corrective structure. So at the bare minimum, after this B wave completes, wherever it may complete, which we don't know, I do think we're going to push back above 14,000. Not necessarily above 20K, although it's possible, but definitely above 14K. So at this point in time, we're trading around $8,000. You're getting around a 40% discount, essentially, off what I believe price will be at in a few months. And so that's why I'm buying spot in this region, even though I do believe it's possible we head a little bit lower. And if we do go lower, I may look to buy some leverage positions on Bitcoin. But for right now, I'm just sticking to spot positions because I'm not quite sure how much lower we're going to go here. And then after that, I do think we'll push up. Now, there's two possibilities when we push up. Either this is a corrective structure and we get this ABC, and then maybe we come back down for another ABC. And this would essentially be that larger triangle structure that I showed you guys at the beginning of this video. Or alternatively, this is not an ABC, and we've actually started the new impulsive move for the next major bull wave that'll take us above 20K. So option one is the ABC, and then option two is the much more bullish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the upside. So those are the two options that I see, but both of them have in common at minimum one more wave to the upside above 14K. So that's why my immediate bias is bullish in the general midterm. I do think that we're going to move above 14K regardless of if we clear the highs at 20K, or regardless of if this is a corrective or an impulsive structure. And so my focus right now is buying the dips. Now, let's take a look. So that's all I want to talk about on Bitcoin, just so you guys get a brief overview of where my idea is, where my head is at for the big picture. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum, this is a really messy chart. I'm going to go ahead and clean this one up. Ethereum was, up until very recently, looking very good to me, and I was buying it between 150 to 165. But with recent developments, that has all changed, and I want to show you guys why. So recall Ethereum did hit 350, 365, the initial major resistance target that I was looking for us to test. And we've since come back down to test this major support zone on the weekly. So if you go to the weekly chart, we can see that this level was acting as support here, resistance here, and then we ultimately broke the resistance and headed to our all-time highs. Came back down, tested this area as support, bounced up, came back, tested it again, broke through it, retested this area as support, lost it, resistance, resistance, resistance. We finally broke through, retested this area as resistance again, however, and we're now back at the support region between 150 to 175. And I've had this level marked off on my charts for a while now, and I've said that this is the area where we will be buying spot, where I will be buying spot. Essentially, it's a make it or break it area for Ethereum. Losing this area, and I think we're open to new lows at that point, holding this level, and I think this is the local low. So this was a pivotal point, and up until very recently, I was fully expecting that we bounce off of this level and essentially clear the highs at 362 and continue on with the bull run for Ethereum up to the 400s. However, with recent price development, I have to call that count into question. And the reason for that is because of what I'm seeing here. So this move to the upside was always a little bit questionable when it came to a 5-wave move. There was really no easy way to count this. And so this was always in the back of my head. We had to be careful how we count this, and it's not super clear as a 5-wave impulse. Now, Bitcoin, I think, is very clear as a 5-wave impulse off the lows of 3K. And I've shown you guys that. To me, Bitcoin just looks crystal clear as a 5-wave move off these lows. I can see the subdivisions of the third wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, corrective 4, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to the 5th. This looks very impulsive to me, very clear to me. Ethereum, not so much. And that was always in the back of my head, but I was giving it the benefit of the doubt because Bitcoin is making an impulsive move, and therefore I believed Ethereum is likely making one as well. However, with recent price action, and I'm going to show you guys right now the in-depth count, I think that we have to be a little bit more cautious here. So on Ethereum, we got this move to the downside, which was difficult to count, I would say, until it actually completed. And now that it is complete, we have a couple of options on how we can count it, right? So one is this is a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 leading diagonal, leading A wave, right? So ABC for the wave 1, ABC for the wave 2, ABC for the wave 3, ABC for the wave 4, ABC for the wave 5. And now we have a corrective ABC structure to the upside, and now we're starting the C wave, right? So this green level, again, is that major weekly level, which I would anticipate to hold if we're bullish. However, if the A wave was this large and the B wave was this shallow, I don't expect the C wave to complete at where we are now. So if we go down to the smaller time frames, we can see that on this C wave, potential C wave, we have a nice clear 5-wave formation. We have a 1, 2, 3. The third wave has the highest volume, which is expected. We have a nice A, B, C, D, E triangle here for the fourth wave. And we have the fifth wave that clears the lows of the third, but on declining volume, exactly what we like to see when comparing the third and the fifth waves of any impulse. And so this looks like a pretty clean 5-wave move to me. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the triangle 5. Now that in mind, if we zoom out, compared to the A wave, it's a lot smaller and it's like a much shorter amount of time. So the odds that this was an A, this was a B, and this was a tiny little C are slim. I don't think the C is actually complete here. Rather than this 5-wave move being the entire C, I lean more towards this being the wave 1 of the C, right? And that would imply that obviously we're going to clear this support here at 150 and potentially head a lot lower here on Ethereum, and even potentially clear the lows here and make new lows on Ethereum. And so that is why I'm very cautious right now. Like I said, I've been buying spot between 155 to 165. We're now sitting at 175, and I will be setting a stop loss for all the spot that I bought at 161, which is right below this low here. If that level is hit, I'll essentially get out of break even because I average buys in from 155 to 165, so getting at 161 will essentially be break even, because at that point, if that level is lost, I do believe we're going to be headed a lot lower, right? At the bare official confirmation will be a loss of 151, but a loss of 161 is like an early warning sign. So officially on a loss of 151, it would imply that we're starting our next wave to the downside. No idea how low that's going to go yet, but if we take the bare minimum estimate, which is going to be the 618 of this potential leading A wave, that still gives us a move down to $100, all right, which is a significant drop. That's about a 30 to 40% drop from current levels, or from 150, right? So that's significant. I'd rather have my money sitting in cash than sitting in Ethereum if we're going to take a dip that big, right? I'll buy some more when we go lower, if anything. So that's my thought process here. Now, alternate counts, if this isn't a 5-wave leading A, the other alternate I would have this as is a 3-wave W, ABC, 3-wave X, and then ABC, 3-wave Y. Even in that case, for a 3-wave Y, we still need a C wave to the downside, right? So maybe we won't get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we should at least get 1, 2, 3. So at the bare minimum, after this retracement completes, I'm looking for a 3rd wave. At the bare minimum, one more wave to the downside, which means this 150 level will be lost. And once we lose that level again, we're open to new lows. So that's why I'm so cautious here on Ethereum. Concerned about the way we're looking here on this major support, and if it's lost, really there's not much stopping us from new lows at that point. And that would also imply that this move to the upside was not a 5-wave move. It would imply that it was a corrective WXYXZ or something of that sort, right? If this is the case. So another thing that I want to take a look at is the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing, because that is also at a significant level here. So another thing I want to mention, right? So if Ethereum is going to be losing the support and is going to be headed down to $100 or down to like new lows, right? That is a drop of anywhere from 40 to 50%, 30 to 50%. So in that case, we would also expect Bitcoin. Well, technically, we'd think, well, Bitcoin's got to make a pretty big dump for that to happen, right? For Ethereum to fall 40 to 50%, shouldn't Bitcoin fall 30 to 40% as well, right? That's what one would initially think. And a 30 to 40% on Bitcoin, drop on Bitcoin from here would put us at $5,500, which is plausible, right? But I think Bitcoin's going to hold up a little bit better, and I'm looking at the $7,200 region as a bounce zone for Bitcoin, and I think it might just hold at that level. Alternatively, we might dip down to 6,000, and then of course 5,500 being sort of the last resort for Bitcoin that I see as low as I think we can possibly get. Technically, we can go as low as a double bottom, but I don't think it's going to happen. So the reason why I think Bitcoin's going to hold up better is if we take a look at the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing, it's at an interesting point right now. So this is where we're at. Actually, let me go to a chart with more price history. Let's see here. We'll go to Poloniex. All right. So this is where we're at right now on the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing. And suffice it to say, it doesn't look excellent. All right. Let me go to log scale. It might be a little bit, there you go, a little bit more clean. So right now on the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing, we're retesting this major support resistance level, right? Resistance, broke through it as support, and we got a little order block here that we're testing. But essentially, if we can get above this order block here, then I think we can push up to around 0.025 on Ethereum Bitcoin, right? Retest this major level right here. Let me go ahead and mark it off. Right, so if we can get above this level, I think we can push to this level here, and then we have a major retest of this region right here, right? If we reject this level, however, the next major level of interest is all the way down here, all right? So this level is lost, then we could push all the way down to 0.011, which is a 40% drop here on the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing. All right. Now, if we do some quick math, and again, I think, as I mentioned, I think um, Bitcoin may hold at 7,200. If we do some quick math and we take this, we assume that we reject here and we start dumping on the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing, and we see Ethereum Bitcoin drop down to the next level of interest here at 0.011. 0.011 times a Bitcoin price of 7,200 gives us an Ethereum price of $80, guys. $80, and all it takes is for this pairing to fall and for Bitcoin to go to $7,200, right? So Bitcoin doesn't necessarily need to dump to 6,000 or 5,000 for Ethereum to see a 30 to 40% drop on the USD pairing. As long as the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing sees a rejection here shortly and also starts to fall, right? So with that in mind, I think it's very possible that we see further weakness on the Ethereum US dollar pairing, even while Bitcoin essentially holds its own in the low 7,000 or high $6,000 region. Again, like I mentioned, Bitcoin is absolutely a buying up here in my opinion, and I think we're headed to 14K after this correction completes. However, I can see Ethereum showing further weakness here, and I just explained to you guys why, which is why I'm a little bit hesitant on buying Ethereum at the moment. I'd buy Bitcoin all day at whatever, where are we at right now? $8,000. So I'd buy Bitcoin all day between $6,000 to $8,000. But Ethereum, I'm hesitant to buy here at the current levels just because of all the reasoning I just explained to you guys. So those are my thoughts on Ethereum and Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Ripple, right? So Ripple has been grinding, as you guys I'm sure are well aware, has been grinding at these levels for a long time now. I'm very bullish on Ripple in the long term. I'm not very concerned about short-term price fluctuations. However, many of you guys are, and understandable as well. You may have not done the research that I've done on it, so you may not be as confident. So let me just talk to you guys a little bit about what I'm seeing here on Ripple. So this is a key level. It's a key swing low from over a year ago at 24 cents. That we recently wicked below and we closed above. So that was a beautiful move right there. However, we ended up pushing back down, and as you guys can see with the most recent Bitcoin dump, we've dropped below that level again. All right, the weekly closes in a couple of days, and I'd love to see another push back up above this weekly level and a close above that level, giving us another essentially stop run, which is a positive sign if we can close back above this weekly level. However, let's take the worst case scenario. All right, so going to the Ripple Bitcoin pairing, currently along with the group on this one, but here's the thing about Ripple Bitcoin, right? So on the monthly, here's the monthly, the weekly, 3 weekly, 3 weekly. Yes, 3 weekly. So on the 3 weekly, we're currently sitting in this block, right? Right about the EQ, we're currently sitting in this block. It's acting as support. First time this block has been tested since we saw our massive pump to the upside. Has never been tested yet. It's a fresh area of support, and we're finding demand in that region at the moment. If that level is lost, we have one more level right below, which is a weekly level. This little order block right here, the last order block before this massive pump to the upside. Again, fresh level has not been tested. We haven't tested it yet. All right. So my thought is, worst case scenario, even though XRP BTC looks bullish at the moment, worst case scenario, bullish on the low time frames, I should say. This is the play that we took. Worst case scenario, we lose this level and we drop down to that weekly support. All right. That weekly support, let's take the lower end of it at 0.00016. Keep in mind, this is where zero is. All right. Ripple Bitcoin is only going to zero if Ripple literally dies. Ripple is the third largest cryptocurrency in the space right now. It has been for 6 years. I don't think it's going to happen. But pretty much all Bitcoin pairings look like this right now. They're approaching the zero level. Essentially, they're running down to the bottom, and obviously they can't go lower than zero. So they go to zero if the alt dies, and if the alt's alive, it's not going to go to zero. So majority of these also look like this, but the point I'm trying to make is even if we lose this major monthly support that we're at, and we drift down to the weekly support here at 0.00016, we take a look at Bitcoin. And let's say this is the lowest. I mean, I think this is the lowest that will go before we see some sort of a larger rally. But let's say we drop down that 0.00016 level, and then let's take Bitcoin, which we know is, well, I think, or I know, I'm confident that it's going to be headed above 14,000 after this correction is complete. So even if we fall down there on Ripple to that 0.00016 level, and Bitcoin ends up crossing 14,000, that still gives us a Ripple price of about 23 cents. We're currently sitting at 24 cents. So basically what I'm trying to say is, even if we drift lower in the short term, in the worst case scenario, if the Ripple Bitcoin pairing absolutely tanks, by the time Bitcoin makes that next leg up to the upside, which I think is absolutely coming, Ripple will be no lower than 22 cents. So you may miss out on some potential upside, but the worst case scenario, you're as long as we're holding, as long as you're confident in the investment, you shouldn't be too concerned about short-term fluctuations. I think that, again, that's the worst case scenario. We hold that level, and when Bitcoin crosses 14K, you're still sitting at 24 cents, 23 cents. Now, the best case scenario, or a better scenario, would be that XRP BTC maintains its strength here and pushes up to this local resistance here at 0.0004. And in that case, by the time Bitcoin crosses 14,000, you're looking at an XRP price of about 50 cents, all right, which is double from where we are now. Which is pretty solid, right? So that's essentially if Ripple, that's a better case scenario. And the best case scenario is that we blast through this resistance and continue up and get a massive spike like we've seen in the past, in which case XRP pushes to over $1 or something of that nature, right? For now, short term. So not too concerned about Ripple, and that's what I'm keeping in mind here. I don't think Ripple's going to zero, which means that I think at some point we're going to push up to 0.0004. And like I said, Bitcoin I think is bullish in the midterm as well. So I'm not concerned about the US dollar value of my Ripple, which is again a long-term hold, but figured this would be something to talk about with you guys as well. So those are my thoughts on Ripple, Ethereum, and Bitcoin here. Bottom line, guys, Bitcoin, bullish midterm, bullish long term, of course. Short term, could see some more downside. I'm not quite sure how low we're going to go. Initial target is 7.2K, this block right here. That's a 618 retracement. It's the one-to-one extension of the W and the Y waves here. Lots of confluence, gap fill at $7,200, CME gap fill. So I'm more expecting a bounce off of 7,200 than anything. But if that level is lost, then we test 6K. And if that level is lost, then we test 5,500. And ultimately, after this is all done, wherever we end up, we are headed, in my opinion, back above 14K. So I'm loading up Bitcoin right now, spot Bitcoin in this region, and I'll be adding some leverage longs if we get down to these levels for a ride up to 14K. That will likely carry most alts along with it. This includes Ripple, this includes Ethereum. But while Bitcoin's making its way down here, bearish on Ethereum unless we cross 225. So let me go back to that chart. Unless we can break 225, I'm very concerned about losing the support on Ethereum. If we can break 225, then it would imply that this really was a C wave, a very tiny one, right? A, B, really tiny C, which I don't think it is, but if we can break 225, we've cleared the high or the start of this impulse, which tells us that this move is complete. And then I think we're safe on a break above 225. But as long as we're below 225, I am concerned about losing this level. And I think we could push up to around 180 to 190 right now in Ethereum before getting the next leg to the downside. So that is everything. And again, Ripple, I think, is essentially at the bottom. It might go a little bit lower, but I'm not concerned about that at this point in time based on everything that I've talked about. So those are my thoughts here on the entire market as a whole. I know it's been a while since I made an update video, so I felt like I would get this one out. And just in general, guys, if Ethereum does take this dumpster dive, there's a lot of alts that look just like it. So I think a lot of alts will get 30 to 40% haircuts if this does pan out on Ethereum. So keep that in mind, all right? XMR is another one that I've been watching, and Monero, and kind of looks very similar to Ethereum with this major support region, which we're now under. So that's a little bit concerning as well. So I think Monero is essentially in the same boat as Ethereum here. If we do drop on Ethereum, I think we could see a pretty deep drop on Monero as well. And like I said, for many other alts. That's all I have for this video update, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'll try my best to get back to you guys as soon as possible. All right, thanks, guys.